So thank you for being here this morning, and it's good to be with you. Chris McClure is our representative from the board this morning. And Chris, if you would unmute yourself, we'd be glad to have you in the room with us.
Thank you. Good morning and welcome. My name is Chris McClure, and I serve on your fellowship board of directors. I want to thank you all for being here today and extend a special welcome to any visitors with us today. We invite visitors to sign the virtual guest book on our website to introduce yourself. You can find the link to the guest book under the visitors tab at our website. Please stay on Zoom after today's service to join our virtual coffee hour, where you may introduce yourself if you are comfortable and join in conversation. We break into random small groups and then come back as a larger group after a few minutes. Your UUFA Board of Directors extended the closure of the fellowship building indefinitely. The board continues to monitor pandemic information, and we have a reopening task force focused on a timeline and reopening procedures for when it will be safer to be together in person. But this timeline is just not now. There are many cases of COVID right now here in Iowa and our community, and we urge you to be extra cautious in your social interactions, as we all were last spring, by sheltering in place when possible, avoiding crowds, wearing masks, social distancing at least 6 feet when in public, and meticulous hand washing. While it's hard to be apart for so long, we are reminded that the building may be closed, but the fellowship remains open. Please contact our office if you need assistance, so we can arrange help or connections for you during this time. There are many ways that you can connect virtually at the UUFA, both on Sundays and throughout the week. A great way to connect is in our small groups, and yes, by offering your help with one of our committees that carry out the work of the fellowship. Also, please join me in expressing appreciation for our minister, religious education educator, and our office administrator for their conscientious work during these difficult times. So on behalf of this caring, nurturing congregation, I welcome each and every one of you to this sacred space. Here we invite you into an experience of transformation, hope, renewal, and connections, which may inspire you to understand life in new ways. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Chris, and thank you to all of our UUFA board members. Each week, we begin our service with the ringing of our chime 3 times. Once to wake the chime, once to open our hearts, and once to open our minds.
In the world of the driven, let us be drawn in. Let your love be a given, let us be drawn in. To imagine, to dream, to create, to redeem, for the sake of the living, let us be drawn in.
Our chalice lighting this morning is by Maureen Killeran. Welcome, you who come in need of healing, you who are confused or have been betrayed. Welcome with your problems and your pain. Welcome to your joys and your wonderings. Welcome your need to hope, your longing for assurance. Instead of answers, here may you find safety for your questions. Instead of promises, may you find community for your struggles, people with hands and hearts to join you in engaging the challenges and changes of our day.
In the world of the driven, let us be drawn in. Let your love be a given, let us be drawn in. To imagine, to dream, to create, to redeem, for the sake of the living, let us be drawn in.
This morning, our prelude is an acoustic version of Bob Marley's Redemption Song, performed by the award-winning Mason family. 7 brothers and sisters ranging in age from 10 to 23, all who play either violin, cello, or the piano. Last February marked the 40th anniversary of this iconic song, urging us to not be afraid, because our existence is not defined by world powers, destructiveness, or evil. While heroes may die and oppression exists, we have the power to free our minds and souls. We can be redeemed. With great appreciation to the Mason family for their permission to stream this newly released song. May our minds and souls be freed as we listen to Redemption Song. This morning, we have a special message from David Slade on appreciating generosity.
Good morning, everybody. This is David Slade, member of the Generosity team, and as part of our fundraising for 2021, we've had a sort of extraordinary circumstance that we wanted to share with everyone. We've had someone who, in addition to their regular pledge and their contribution, they have made a special gift, a very generous cash gift in someone else's honor. And this is such an extraordinary thing that we wanted to share it with you. So our anonymous donor giver has made this gift in Sam Wormley's name. And in particular, they noted that they were inspired by Sam and how tirelessly he works for the benefit of the fellowship and all the things he does to keep it running and to keep it the amazing place that it is and to contribute to other people's experiences there. And I think that that's a great example of being motivated by extraordinary contributions from someone else to give an extraordinary contribution themselves. Not to imply that we all should be giving money, but there are many ways to give, and Sam exemplifies so many of them that he inspired this one member to give in terms of money. So we wanted to share that with you, and I'm sure many of you have seen Sam around doing all the things he does. He's currently serving in about 6 different capacities. He's on the Generosity team as a co-chair. He's the leader of the Scottsburg Science Circle. He's on the Endowment Acquisitions and Disbursements Committee. He's directing the Fellowship Voices in an unpaid role while we are between paid directors, which is an amazing amount of work, and Sam's enthusiasm is contagious, and we can't wait to sing for you again as soon as we can be together in person. And then, of course, every week we are in person. He's serving as the sound person, running the board for our services, which is just, once again, an amazing commitment for him. Over the years, he's, of course, served on the board of directors. He's been the president. He's taught RE. He's been on the nominating committee. I think he's still on the nominating committee, and he's on the Sunday Services Committee for 20 years. So if that doesn't inspire some of you to do a little bit more or find a way to give a little bit more, I don't know what will, but we really are grateful to see those contributions from Sam being compounded and recognized by others. And so let the gift and Sam's contributions serve as motivation for you. And I hope that we can all try to be a little bit more like Sam, I should say, and make the fellowship an even better place in our absence from physical meeting, but then again when we come back together. So thank you, Sam. You're an inspiration to us all, and thank you to our generous donor for your extra gift. And I hope you all have a wonderful week. Thank you.
Thank you, David, and thank you, Sam, and thank you to our donor. The November offertory recipient is the Bridge Home, which is formerly the Emergency Residence Project. The Bridge Home is an organization that provides shelter and food to the homeless and, whenever possible, help to prevent individuals from becoming or remaining homeless. At the end of our service today, I encourage you to go to our website and give your offering that will support this important organization as we go into our winter months. Thank you for your generosity. The time for all ages this morning is a story called The Shattering of the Vessels by Amy Petrie Shaw. It is her free retelling of the Shavirat HaKelim from the Kabbalah, the ancient Jewish mystical reinterpretation of the Bible. At the beginning of time, before anything else at all existed, love was all there was, and it filled up everything in the whole universe. But love got bored and lonely. There was no one to be in love with. So one day, love decided to make a world. First, it took a deep breath. Can you take a deep breath? Can you take what you can imagine to be the biggest breath you could possibly take? Take that deep breath a little deeper, a little deep. Good job. Love got all squished up, taking the deepest breath ever, and was so squished that it squeezed out the darkness. The darkness was all around, thick and shiny and black. It was beautiful, but now love couldn't see anything. Love waved its arms and legs around, but the darkness was everywhere. I have to do something about this, said love. It thought for a minute and tried to think of the most wonderful, beautiful, warm thoughts ever. Love thought harder and harder, and all of a sudden, love called out, I want light, and pop. All of the warm and wonderful and beautiful thoughts exploded outward in 10 different directions and shaped themselves into 10 big glowing glass balls. Each ball was filled with a spinning lump of pure light and warmth. Some of the spare good thoughts that couldn't quite fit in the glass became dust and water vapor and seeds and molecules that could form animals. And love said, this is amazing. I better make something for the light to shine on. So it waved its arms and kicked its legs, and all of the dust and water vapor and molecules that had been scattered around when the glass balls formed began to form into another huge ball, this one of dirt and water and plants and animals. Love called this the earth. The 10 balls of light started towards the earth, and if they had made it here in one piece, the entire planet would have been exactly the way love wanted it. But the glass balls were too fragile to contain such strong, powerful, wonderful, good thoughts. They broke open and shattered, and all of the good thoughts shattered and flew out like sparks and were scattered like sand, like seeds, like stars. Those sparks fell everywhere on the earth in tiny bits instead of big clumps like love had intended. Oh no, said Love. I'm too big. I'll never be able to find all of those tiny sparks. I have to make one more thing. So Love waved its arm and kicked its feet one last time, and people appeared on Earth. They didn't know it, but they were created with one job: to find these sparks, these tiny pieces of wonderful goodness, and to bring them together again in big clumps. When enough clumps are there, I will create the big glass containers to hold them, and this time I will set them down a little more carefully, Love said. So all of us, from the time we are born, have a job, and that job is to help find love and more good and warm and wonderful things. And if we do that, we will be healing each other and the world. And that is our time for all ages this morning. Let's sing This Little Light of Mine.
Good morning. I'm Dan Haug. Our opening words for today are by Lynn Unger. November. Is there anything left to be said about the blaze of autumn leaves? The way they let go with such graciousness, how they dance on the wind and crunch under the feet and glow in the afternoon light. Maybe just this. The colors fade. They turn sodden as milky cereal in the gutters and sidewalk. The trees look tattered and then vulnerable and exposed. It turns out that loss is really loss, which is every bit as much a part of the story as autumn's glamour. Listen, you are not obliged to be beautiful. You don't have to shine. Blooming will happen when it happens. If you can be still for a moment, you might notice that the roots that feed you are still reaching silently through the dark.
Each week, we take time in our service to invite those who have gathered this morning to share a milestone, something significant from your life that is bringing you either joy or challenge or gratitude. When I open the room to gallery view, I encourage you to give each other a little space as the time lag will overlap. So please introduce yourself, share your milestone, and close by saying thank you for listening so the next person can share their milestone. This is our time of sharing. And it will also require you to unmute yourself and then mute again when you're done.
I would like to share. I was able to have a quiet, calm Thanksgiving with my parents, which I'm very thankful for. I was able to cook a meal for them. I don't know how many Thanksgiving meals my mother has fixed for me and many other family members. But I'm thankful for that chance to have a drama-free Thanksgiving with my parents. It was very special. I'm Susan Norris. I always forget to say that. And I'm done.
This morning, I would like us all to remember and consider those who are dealing with the effects of COVID-19, and for those families who had an empty chair at the Thanksgiving table this year with family members who are either hospitalized or who have transitioned to the next place, wherever that may be. We hold them in our thoughts. Thank you.
I have one more that I want to share. This is Nancy Tepper. And Janet Anderson Shea's husband, Chang, died a year ago, I believe on the 2nd of December. And Janet, of course, is very mindful of this, and I'm sure would appreciate any calls or cards from those of you who know her. Thank you for listening.
If there are no other milestones this morning, we'll continue. For those milestones that have been spoken aloud, and for those that we carry in our hearts, we join into a moment of silence, knowing that in this community, no one ever needs to make the journey alone, and that you are loved. A moment of silence together. It is good to be together. Traditionally, the Advent wreath is used to mark the Sundays until Christmas with gradually increasing light. Each week, a new flame is lit to represent light banishing darkness. This year, we're doing a reverse Advent wreath. We begin with the candles lit, and each week we'll extinguish another flame until gradually we enter into full darkness. Darkness is as important as light. The cold dark of winter is as important to life as the bright light and warmth of summer. Today, the first candle is extinguished to honor the gift of rest and healing. To truly rest, we need dark. In the darkness of sleep, our bodies and brains heal. In this time of high anxiety, In these days of stress and worry, we give thanks for the healing of darkness. May we be blessed by the gifts of rest. For those who have been feeling alone and isolated, as each of us have at some time during the last 8 months, I've found inspiration in this song, You Will Be Found, from the musical Dear Evan Hansen, which is sung by the Second Unitarian Church of Chicago Choir, members from that choir.
Have you ever felt like nobody was there? Have you ever felt forgotten in the middle of nowhere? Have you ever felt like you could disappear? Like you could fall and no one would hear? Well, let that lonely feeling wash away. Maybe there's a reason to believe you'll be okay. 'Cause when you don't feel strong enough to stand, you can reach out your hand. And oh, someone will come running, and I know they'll take you home. Even when the dark comes crashing through, when you need a friend to carry you, and when you're broken on the ground, you will be found. So let the sun come streaming in, 'cause you'll reach up and you'll rise again. Lift your head and look around. You will be found. 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 you're broken on the ground, you will be found. So let the sun come streaming in. You'll reach up and you'll rise again. If you only look around, you will be found. Even when the dark comes crashing through, you will be found. When you need someone to carry you, you will be found. You will be found.
Good morning. This is Ralph Gandy, and our reading this morning is The Way Under the Way by Mark Nepo. For all that has been written, for all that has been read, we are led to this instant where one of us will speak and one of us will listen, as if no one has ever placed an oar into that water. It doesn't matter how we come to this. We may jump to it or be warned to it because of great pain, or a sudden raw feeling that is all very real. It may happen in a parking lot when we break the eggs in the rain, or watch each other in our grief. But here we will come with very left in the way. When we meet like this, I may not have the words, so let me say it now. Nothing compares to the sensation of being alive in the company of another. Stripped of causes and plans and things to strive for, I have discovered everything I could need or ask for is right here in flawed abundance. We cannot eliminate hunger, but we can feed each other. We cannot eliminate loneliness, but we can hold each other. We cannot eliminate pain, but we can live a life of compassion. Ultimately, we are small living things, awakened in the stream, not gods who carve out rivers. Like human fish, we are asked to experience meaning in the life that moves through the gill of our heart. There is nothing to do and nowhere to go. Except this, we can do everything and go anywhere.
This morning, our anthem is a familiar song, What Wondrous Love Is This?, as arranged and sung by Jess Hedelman, Chelsea Sardoni, and Mariah Akande.
What wondrous love is this, O my soul, O my soul? What wondrous love is this, O my soul? What wondrous love is this that brings my heart such bliss and takes away the pain of my soul?
Again, the title this morning of the service is Finding Hope and Healing Through Each Other. Have you ever had a plan completely fall apart? In the story for all ages this morning, love's best intentions to make something beautiful literally exploded and flew in unexpected directions. Like our own lives, those intentions were amazing and fragile. After realizing that the original plan was no longer possible, love developed a new plan that brought people together, their sole purpose being to seek out and find sparks of goodness and beauty in each other and the world. I find it strangely comforting that a mythic interpretation of one of the creation stories includes the whole thing falling apart, and then with time becoming something more beautiful than anyone could have imagined. Perhaps the current pandemic narrative is another story of creation that we are living through. This pandemic can sometimes feel like broken glass. Life as we know it has been changed. As we saw in the story for all ages, we have the capacity to pause and recognize that we have all been impacted, and we can all be present to one another in the many different ways that we have been exploring since March. The late Catholic priest, theologian, and spiritual writer Henry Nouwen would describe each of us as a wounded healer. Inspired by Carl Jung, the concept of being a wounded healer understands that healing is a process between two equals. Our wounds teach us life lessons. They create ways for us to connect, teach, touch, and heal each other's hearts by being present for and with each other. In being present to one another, we are more able to find hope and healing through each other and move forward. Compassion and understanding brings us together as we discover new sparks of goodness and beauty. When we acknowledge the importance of another person's presence in our lives, we open new pathways to healing emotionally, spiritually, and physically. The presence of each and every one of you is important and makes a difference in my life and in the life of this fellowship. The American Buddhist nun, Pema Chodron, tells the story of being 6 years old and feeling lonely and unloved. She was walking down the sidewalk, kicking anything she could find. There was an old woman sitting in the sun watching, and she said to Pema, "Little girl, don't you go letting life harden your heart." And years later, Chodron reflected that in that moment, she learned that we can close our hearts to life to try to protect ourselves against difficult circumstances, or we can let difficulties soften us and make us kinder and more open to what scares us. When things fall apart and we can't get the pieces back together, this is the time when the natural warmth of tenderness, the warmth of empathy and kindness are just waiting to be uncovered, waiting to be embraced. Who are the wounded healers in your life? The possibility of being a wounded healer transcends every faith tradition, including Unitarian Universalism, in our covenant to strive to accept one another and encourage each other's spiritual growth, a promise of mutual trust and support and healing. I find comfort in the poetic voices of Lynn Unger and Mark Nepo. Years ago, when skiing was one of the greatest joys in my life, November marked the beginning of beauty, of excitement and anticipation of a month of celebration for the months ahead. Without skiing, November is often less appealing. I have experienced it as a month of loss and letting go of warmth and beauty as colorful leaves fall from the trees and dance in the wind, only to fade on the ground. In her poem, Lynn acknowledges the struggles I feel. She serves as a wounded healer present to my sense of loss, reminding me of the natural cycle of seasons and life, and then by addressing my own insecurities by adding, listen, you don't have to shine. Blooming will happen when it happens. I've lost my place. I'll be right back. Blooming will happen when it happens. If you can be still for a moment, you might notice that the roots that feed you are still reaching silently through the dark. Mark Nepo observes that nothing compares to the sensation of being alive in the company of another. Even when we are at a loss for words, our presence for and with each other is healing. A silent presence often carries deeper meaning, caring, and acceptance than any words might offer. This also holds true in virtual space. We cannot eliminate hunger, but we can feed each other. We cannot eliminate loneliness, but we can hold each other virtually. We cannot eliminate pain, but we can live a life of compassion. There is nothing to do and nowhere to go. Accepting this, we can do everything and go anywhere. The environmental and spiritual activist Joanna Macy believes that healing begins with gratitude. In her work, she has met and worked with Native Americans in the Onondaga Nation in central New York. The young students there have a daily Thanksgiving assembly. And Macy has shared a Mohawk Thanksgiving prayer. As a living tradition, one of the sources of our faith includes the spiritual teachings of the earth-centered traditions, which celebrate the sacred circles of life. In that spirit, I close our service on finding hope and healing through each other by offering their Thanksgiving prayer. When I say the phrase, "Now our minds are one," I invite you to repeat it out loud. Today we have gathered and we see that the cycles of life continue. We have been given the duty to live in balance and harmony with each other and all living things. So now we give greetings and thanks to each other as people. Now our minds are one. Now our minds are one. We are thankful to our mother, the earth, for she gives us all that we need for life. She supports our feet as we walk upon her. It gives us joy that she continues to care for us as she has from the beginning of time. To our mother, we send greetings and thanks. Now our minds are one. We gather our minds to greet and thank the enlightened teachers who have come to help throughout the ages. When we forget how to live in harmony, they remind us of the way we were instructed to live as people. We send greetings and thanks to these caring teachers. Now our minds are one. We turn our thoughts to the Creator or Great Spirit and send greetings and thanks for all gifts of the creation. Everything we need to live a good life is here on this Mother Earth. For all the love that is still around us, we gather our minds together as one and send our choicest words of greetings and thanks to the Creator. Now our minds are one. We have now arrived at the place where we end our words. All of the things we have named, it was not our intention to leave anything out. If something was forgotten, we leave it to each individual to send such greetings and thanks in their own way. Now our minds are one. May we continue to seek new ways of being together and continue to seek out and find sparks of goodness and beauty. When we do this, we are healing each other and the world. Amen, and blessed be. Our closing music this morning is by a Minneapolis-based musician and singer, Humbird, who has written this lovely song called On the Day We Are Together Again, which we are all longing for to do in person. We're together here in virtual space, but we do look forward to that day that we are together again. The beginning of this song, her voice is very quiet, so you may find it helpful to adjust the volume on your own tablet or computer to a higher level so you can hear her beautiful voice. This is Humbird, On the Day We Are Together Again.
On the day we are together again. On the day we are together again. I will pull you in close like a hoop with no end. On the day we are together again. We will share the same table again. We will share the same table again. I'll pass you the salt, the candlelight will bend when we eat at the same table again. We will walk around the block hand in hand. We will walk around the block hand in hand. We'll stop for a snack at the taco truck stand. We will walk around the block hand in hand. Someday we will go back to work. Someday we will go back to work. May we be among people who respect our work. Someday we will go back to work. I I will pull you in close like a hoop with no end on the day we are together again.
Closing words are by L.R. Nost. Do not be dismayed by the brokenness of the world. All things break, and all things can be mended. Not with time, as they say, but with intention. So go, love intentionally, extravagantly, unconditionally. The broken world awaits in darkness for the light that is you. Thank you for being with us this morning. We think of our friends in Torretfalva and remember as Elizabeth, who is pictured here when Joan visited, and they had a close friendship, and we remember her. I had the great pleasure of meeting her, and she spoke so highly of Joan and how much she enjoyed her company. We remember our friends in Torretfalva. Thank you for your generosity this morning, for our offertory recipient, and for other causes that we support as a fellowship. Thank you to everyone who participated in the service this morning, and I hope that you will remain on the Zoom virtual space as we go into breakout rooms for a few minutes to catch up with each other, to meet someone new, and then come back together in a larger group once again. Thanks again. Have a great week.